Hi folks, my name is Francois Pienaar and I was born into apartheid South Africa. Fortunately for the last 20 years, I've been living in a democratic South Africa and have experienced the power of sport. Mr. Mandela once said that sport has the power to change the world. Because sport transcends culture, religion, creed and race. Sometimes it's just a simple game, but often sport is much more than that. It's full of life's lessons. One of the lessons that sport must teach us is that it says no to racism. As a former rugby player and a South African, I say no to racism in society and no to racism in sport.
All right, well, there you go. Francois Pienaar, our former Springbok captain, the captain that won the Rugby World Cup and has not only made headlines here in South Africa, but of course headlines around the world. I mean, movies have been made about the World Cup that South Africa won, which was to acclaim. And it was one of the most unexpected moments of time that united a country. And I think if you bring up racism in sports, that's probably one of those events that really eclipsed all forms of racism in a country that so desperately needed it at the time, with our former belated President Nelson Mandela walking onto that field, a moment none of us will ever forget. Francois Pienaar, we are hoping, is going to be one of our guests here this morning, so we can talk to him a little bit more about racism in sport and things that he may have experienced over the time. And unfortunately, a lot of sportsmen and women have experienced a lot of racism. Well, Global Watch, you can see behind me, it's a fantastic initiative. The slogan, "Say No to Racism, Discrimination in Sports." That's really its mandate. That's what it's formed for. It is a civil society action group that's committed to rooting out racism in sport. Now, there's been a conference happening. It was the whole of yesterday. Some of the biggest role players from the United Nations, from the sporting federations, you name it, have been here. They've been talking and they've been drawing up guidelines as to how to eradicate it. This morning, again, like I say, we're going to be joined by a host of guests. I see Sexwale, who is heading up here in South Africa, has arrived, and we're going to be talking to him in a very short while. But let us take a look at this insert now, just to give you a bit of background knowledge as to what's been going on these past few days. Simon Burke put this together for us.
Taking their cue from Nelson Mandela, the premier fighter against all forms of racism in the world, Global Watch is setting out to make as big a noise as possible about the very real issue of racism in sport. And founder Sexwale has had his share, thrust into the spotlight as FIFA President Sepp Blatter's so-called black friend. It became a joke around the world.
It's a societal problem that is finding its way onto the sporting fields.
The examples just continue to pile up, and often very little has been done. Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton is targeted, particularly at the Spanish Grand Prix. In tennis, Venus and Serena Williams were referred to as the Williams brothers by Russian tennis boss Shamil Tapashev. And in football, South Africa's Siyanda Xulu walked out of training in protest against Rostov FC coach Igor Gamula, who referred to black players as things. Danny Alves sparked a viral campaign of support when he ate a banana on the field that had been thrown at him, a common practice in football where supporters target black players.
Can you imagine in a South African stadium that somebody throws a banana to Serero? We can't even think about it. But when Serero plays in Europe, there's a high possibility that a banana will be thrown to him and not to any one of his teammates.
Morocco's refusal to host the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations because of Ebola concerns also contains an all too evident subtext of racism towards, in particular, West Africa.
The perception is inescapable that Morocco is doing what it is doing because these people come from south of the Sahara.
Thabo Mbeki will join Jacob Zuma along with a host of names over the two-day summit next week. Simon Burke, SABC News, Johannesburg.